Love is like fire. So just maybe visualize this for a moment. We'll go on a little journey. So there's the major block to love is fear. It's like the other end of love. It's not even the other end of love. Can't even say that. It's its own presence that covers love or makes it impossible to be in a state of love or to give or receive love in any way. Fear is the thing that covers that. And you can think of, like, let's say, do I have, no, I don't. I was going to draw it on with pen and paper, but let's say there's like here, and like this is my pinky, this is my index finger. Let's say these are layers of fears, right? And let's just say you're at pinky layer, and your perception is here. And love is this fire, right? Love is this fire, like past the index finger. It's beyond this. So you can see all this stuff, but you can feel and see the light of the fire, the love. You can feel it. It radiates through everything. It permeates it. It moves through all this stuff. And there's traces that can be experienced on each of these levels of love, but they kind of get filtered. That light gets filtered through each one of these layers. It's not specific that there's 4 layers. That's just how many fingers I have. Just don't get too tied up on that. But let's say you're at the pinky layer and you're experiencing whatever fear is there, but you're experiencing whatever love is there, and however it's filtered through whatever that layer consists of. Now, as you start to dissolve your own fears, and this can mean like sitting with your fears and seeing where they come from, and letting go of them and releasing them, and because a lot of times we have like innate fears and things like this that are within us that we don't acknowledge. They're just there, and they just show up in our lives, and we just kind of carry out our lives with these presences with us. And we don't realize that they may come from deep within our childhood, or they may come from even beyond that. They may come from our heredity, or our DNA, or humankind may have this presence. But as we awaken to our spiritual being, we have the ability to really alchemize and filter through this stuff and release and dissolve. Anything, absolutely anything, is possible to be alchemized into love, which is our divine state. So we're at pinky level, and let's say we release some fears, we get to ring finger level, and then there's whatever experience of love, whatever experience of fear there, and then we move forward and we get to index finger level, and then we can see the fire, and it's like this beautiful, beautiful, bright light, but we can't see what's beyond that. We don't know what's beyond that fire. And we know maybe that we have to go into that fire. We have to absorb into that fire. And the mind, I'm going to put this away, and the mind will say, but that's fire, and fire will burn you. And the mind is right, because what it's talking about being burned is itself. What it's talking about being burned is fear. And that's the reason we can't see beyond that love, that fire. Because the only way to really know it, to really be it, to really absorb into that presence is to journey into that unknown presence that is love. And that means to let go of all fear and separation. And it's the bravest thing that we can do as humans. It's the bravest thing that we can do. So know this, that it's little tiny fears that we may not know of, little tiny expressions of separation that keep us from going into that fire. And just know that this fire burns everything that's not love. So again, the mind is right about being burned by this fire, because it itself is saying that, it's coming up with that thought, that belief, to keep you from going into it, because that voice gets burned and dissolves into love. And all the constructs of your life and reality that you've built to be stable in and structured in your identity as who you think you are, as who the mind has allowed us to believe that we are, gets burned in this fire of love. And it takes a great degree of surrender. It takes a great bravery to open and willing to be absorbed into that flame. And know that the fear of doing that, remember that that's fear. Remember that, because the resistance, or the, what's the word I'm looking for? Apprehensiveness to really surrender into that flame comes from fear. That apprehensiveness is like, I don't know if I go in there, I don't know how it's going to work out. That's fear. That's a little trace of fear that takes the form and takes the shape of something that we'll believe in. So we stop, so we don't continue, so we don't really go in to love. So this is something to know and explore within your being, and see and check in with where you might be at with it. This isn't something to take my word or anybody's word about. This is something to explore, and know that you won't lose anything. You won't lose any safety. You won't lose any protection that you may have had by letting go of your fears. In fact, it's the opposite. That's like the irony of it. Is when you surrender to love, what you're really doing is there's a divinity in everything in existence. And when you tap in and align with that frequency is the most powerful force in the universe. And that becomes your guardian. That becomes the aura around you that supports all the life around you. Becomes the presence that radiates from you. It becomes what you give. It becomes what you receive. It becomes what you are, because it is what you are in truth. And this is all about just peeling away subtle layers, very delicate, very subtle layers of separation, fear. But know that you're safe to release all of this. That is the bravest and greatest thing that we can do, is to release our fears and beliefs in separation. So, happy trails, journeying into divine light, journeying into truth. Let me know what happens when you get there. Maybe we can have a conversation about light, about love, about truth, maybe about fear. It's nice to be with you again. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.